Imagine that you have a personal cornucopia, but it provides you with failures. You're a misfortune magnet, and those around you quietly laugh behind your back. You're upset and you don't know how to stop this madness. But most likely, your failures are a matter of one day. There are people in history who have been terribly unlucky all of their lives. And so that you aren't sad about coffee you spilled and a phone you dropped into a puddle, this simple infographic episode will tell you about a series of failures that followed King John Lackland throughout his reign. The affairs of the future English monarch went awry in his youth. His father, Henry II Curtmantle, had 7 more children besides him, and these are only officially recognized children. There were 4 boys among them, and therefore 4 claimant to throne and inheritance. And John was the youngest in the whole company. Therefore, when the time came to divide numerous of Henry's possessions, the first and the best of them went to the elder brothers. The fact is that in the 12th century, when Henry II ruled, the situation in Europe changed frequently and quickly. One marriage was enough to change the country's ruler and landowner. This is what happened here. Henry, who in theory was the King of England, very successfully married Eleanor of Aquitaine, who in turn was the leader of the Duchy of Aquitaine. The land she owned was located in southwest of modern France. As a result, both English and French lands were in the hands of Henry II. When the time came to give territories to children, by chance or design, Harry divided the possessions in such a way that John did not get any of these coveted French lands. The youngest son had to get by with some English lands and Ireland. And as for the 12th century, it was not just insulting, but almost shameful. Furthermore, Entourage instantly reacted to these events and immediately came up with a prefix to the prince's name. It would seem nothing special. They were given to almost all monarchs at the time. However, John's elder brother Richard remained known in the annals as the Lionheart, and John himself received a much less heroic nickname, Lackland. Nevertheless, as history has shown, this was not the most offensive nickname that awaited him. The grown children rebelled against Henry II and decided to take the throne themselves, which was also not something unique for the 12th century. After some scuffle in 1189, the place of the ruler was taken by one of the elder brothers, Richard, the one who later gets the nickname Lionheart. John was pleased because in this struggle he supported Richard. And it seemed that for a while everything calmed down. Richard confirmed John's ownership of his lands, went on a crusade, and John married the Countess Isabella of Gloucester. But then failure again caught up with him. This marriage did not bring children. And later, Richard announced that he would make a nephew and not a brother his successor. The bad streak continued. Time passed. The crusade lasted quite a long time, and England was not governed by Richard himself, but by his regent, or in other words, authorized person. But John was haunted by the thought that he was not the direct successor to the throne. One day, he made up his mind and tried to overthrow the hated regent of his brother. And it would seem that the attempt itself was almost a success, but the situation again did not play in John's favor. Because of this attempt to take the throne, he became the prototype of the villain in the Legends of Hereward, which later transformed in the story of Robin Hood. It was clearly a doubtful merit. Although, it might seem that fortune finally smiled upon John for a while. On the way home, Richard was captured by the Holy Roman Emperor, and John chose the simplest way in this situation. He addressed directly to his brother's captor, Henry IV, and simply asked him not to free his brother as long as possible. At the same time, he agreed with the French king for support and decided finally to seize power in England. But Richard eventually returned, glorified as a hero. And as expected, he took the throne again, and John went into exile for his rebellious attempts, and he was deprived of his lands. At the very end of the 12th century, Richard died, and John safely took the throne. However, there were problems again. The nephew to whom Richard had wanted to pass the throne before was alive, healthy, and ambitious, and many barons and nobles were on his side. As a result, all the nobles that didn't like the fact that John rose to power turned to the King of France for support. Personal strife was added to the beef. Having ascended the throne, John stole his vassal's fiancée and married her. The enraged count joined the confrontation as well, and among others, went to the French king. The fact is that John was King of England at the same time the owner of part of the lands of France. That is, he was a vassal to King Philippe Auguste. The French king was quick to defend the offended and sent troops to Normandy against his vassal to bring back the English throne to Richard's nephew. But John regained power and sent his nephew to prison. But again, this telegraph did not work in his favor. Rumors that John had killed the nephew quickly spread around the country. The war with France lasted 4 years, until 1206, and all this time misfortune rained down on the English ruler. As a result, the country spent a lot of money and even lost a decent amount of land. A couple of years later, John went even further. He quarreled with the church, and in the Middle Ages, this could turn into serious problems. Actually, this is exactly what happened. In 1208, the monarch refused to acknowledge the new Archbishop of the Church of England. In response, he imposed an interdict. This is how the Roman Catholic Church called the ban on any church activities, marriage, confession, and others. But he did not impose it only on John himself, but on the whole country. It sparked outrage of the people again. England was returned to fold only in 1214, but John didn't let his people rejoice properly. That year, he got involved in a new war with the French and successfully lost it. With so many military failures, the king couldn't be left without another nickname, and it was not long in coming. This time, the public gave him the nickname Soft Sword. In the days of the harsh knights of the Middle Ages, it was a really shameful name for the King of England. However, it seems that John's life taught him nothing. Frustrated by another defeat, the king decided to raise taxes and fees. The barons from whose lands he collected these taxes, of course, were not too happy and decided to go on a rebellion against the useless king. They raised an army, persuaded all the nobles not to give a single coin to the treasury, and forced John to sign a document known as history as the Magna Carta. With this signature, he arbitrarily limited his power and satisfied all the wishes of the barons. Of course, after a while, John tried to invalidate the document, suppress the barons' revolt, and regain all power. But it also came to a sticky end. The king began to attack the barons' possessions. In one of these battles, John's troops retreated across the river under the onslaught of the enemy. A flush caught the king's cart in the worst possible place. In the end, John himself was saved, but not the jewels lying in the cart. Death overtook the English monarch in one of these military campaigns. But if you think that fortune smiled upon him at least this time, and the monarch worthily died from an enemy's arrow, you're mistaken. The king died of dysentery, that is, of ordinary food poisoning. However, there were rumors later that he was deliberately poisoned. John's reputation was destroyed. Since the Middle Ages, even his name has been considered unlucky in the ruling dynasties not only of England, but also of Scotland and France. Not a single English monarch named their sons John. What, in your opinion, determines the success and failure of a person? Was the king to blame for most of his failures, or was it predestined? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like and share this video. See you in new episodes.